You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 39. The heroes of Liangshan Marsh rescue men on the execution ground. The heroes hold a meeting at the Bailong temple. What oversight has been made in the letter? Asked Chao Gai. In writing the letter I failed to exercise sufficient care, said Wu Yong. I overlooked the 4 characters, Hanlin Kai Jing on the seal. 75 That is enough to result in the arrest of Dai Zong. But I know, said Jian Daijian, that Kai Jing always uses such a seal on all his essays and letters. There is not the slightest error, so why do you say there has been an oversight? You gentlemen overlook the fact that the prefect at Jiangzhou is the son of the Prime Minister Kai Jing, said Wu Yong. Is it likely that a father writing to his son would use such a seal? There is the mistake. I overlooked that. When Dai Zong presents the dispatch at Jiangzhou, they will suspect it and cross-examine him. If he tells the truth, there will be serious consequences. Would it not be better to send a man after him and bring the letter back? Asked Chao Gai. How can we do that? Is he not the divine traveler? He will now be nearly 200 li on his way. We must not, however, have the slightest delay in this matter, but must go at once to save those 2 men. How can we save them? Asked Chao Gai. Have you any plan? Wu Yong whispered in Chao Gai's ear, and then said, Sir, we must do this and issue an order to our men to start at once. It permits of no delay. Chao Gai issued the orders, and all the men went to get their arms, and very soon were on their way to Jiangzhou. Dai Zong arrived back at Jiangzhou within the scheduled time, and Prefect Kai was very glad to see him back so quickly, and offered Dai Zong 3 cups of wine as a reward. When the prefect received the dispatch, he asked, Did you see my father? I stayed there for only 1 night, so I did not see the Prime Minister, replied Dai Zong. The prefect read the letter, which began with I have duly received your presents. Then in the middle of the letter was this, the emperor would like to see the rebel Song Jiang, so you must send him here in a cart well guarded, and care must be taken that he does not escape on the way. The letter concluded with this, as regards Huang Wenbing, his case will soon be put before the emperor, and he will be appointed to a higher post. The prefect was highly delighted, and gave Dai Zong 25 taels of silver. He then issued an order for a prisoner's cart to be got ready for Song Jiang, and appointed an escort to go with it. Dai Zong, after expressing his thanks, went to his quarters, bought some food, and took it to Song Jiang in the prison. Prefect Kai gave orders that the cart for the prisoner must start in a day or 2. Just then the gatekeeper reported that Huang Wenbing wished to see the prefect, and was told to bring the visitor into the private apartments. Huang had brought wine and fruit, which he presented to the prefect, who after thanking him said, You give me so many presents that I hardly know how to recompense you. Don't mention it. They are only small things from the country. I shall congratulate you that you will soon be appointed to a good post. How do you know that? Yesterday I got a reply from my father in the capital, and he orders me to send that seditious man Song Jiang there. Your name will be mentioned to the emperor, and you will be promoted very soon. Many thanks for your recommendation. Your messenger must have flown like a spirit. I will show you the reply, which will convince you that I am telling you the truth. As it is a personal letter from your father, I dare not presume to look at it. But as you have asked me to do so, I will beg you to let me see it. You are a very intimate friend of mine, said the prefect, so why should you not read my letter? He sent a messenger to bring the letter, and handed it to Huang Wenbing. The latter read the letter through, and looking carefully at the seal noticed that it looked quite like the impression from a new seal. He wagged his head and said, This letter is not genuine. You are mistaken, said the prefect. I know it is my father's handwriting. Why do you think it is false? Sir, please allow me to speak. Do the letters from your father always bear this seal? Other letters from my father did not bear such a seal as this, as he always signs his name. But the seal must have been at his side, so he just used it for this letter. Please pardon me if I am too loquacious, but I think that this letter is a forgery to deceive you. As you know, the styles of writing of Kai, Su, Huang, and me are well known everywhere, so that many people have learned them. Only this seal is exactly like what your father used when he was a member of the Hanlin Academy. But as he is now the Prime Minister, why would he use this seal? Moreover, as he is writing to you, his son, why does he use a seal with his full name on? Your father is the most able and illustrious man in the empire, and would not make such a mistake as this. If, however, you do not believe me, then you can cross-examine the messenger as to what people did he see in the Prime Minister's residence. If his answers are wrong, then the letter must be false. You have been very kind to me in the past, so I presume to talk to you in this free manner. Please excuse me. Never mind, said Prefect Kaijio. The messenger has not been to Kaifeng before, so I shall soon find out if he did not go there this time. He asked Huang Wenbing to sit behind the screen, and sent a messenger to summon Dai Zong as he wanted to see him about some other matter. Now when Dai Zong arrived at Song Zhang's cell in the prison, he whispered to him all that had happened at Liangshan Marsh. The next day Dai Zong was invited by a friend to dine at a wine shop in the town, and while they were drinking a messenger came and told Dai Zong that the prefect Kai wanted to see him. When he reached the yamen, the prefect spoke to him. I think that I did not reward you sufficiently for the excellent service in which you carried out that commission to Kaifeng. I am your messenger, so why dared I to be slow in executing your business? I have been very busy lately, and have not had the opportunity of speaking to you about that matter again. When you visited the capital, by which gate did you enter? When I reached Kaifeng, it was evening, and almost dark, so that I could not see the name of the gate. Whom did you speak to at the door of my father's residence? Where did you rest while you were there? I gave your letter in presents to the doorkeeper, and he told me that I had better sleep in some inn for the night. I did so, and the next morning I went to your father's residence about 4 a.m., and received the reply. As I knew the matter was urgent, I did not delay by talking to the doorkeeper, and started off immediately on my return journey. Could you tell me how old was the doorkeeper? Was he lean or stout, tall or little, and had he a mustache or not? It was dark in the evening when I was there, and the following morning it was not quite daybreak, so that I could not get a clear view of the gatekeeper. He was not very tall, and had a little mustache. The prefect became angry at this, and shouted out to his attendants, "Seize that man." They did this, and bound him with ropes. I have committed no crime, said Dai Zong. You deserve death, shouted Prefect Kaijio. The doorkeeper old Wang at my father's house died a number of years ago, and that work is now done by his son, who is quite young, so that he cannot have a mustache, as you say. Moreover, young Wang could not go inside with the letter. When letters and dispatches arrive, his duty is to call a servant named Zhang, who would take the letters to the stewardly, who after delivering it, and finding all in order, would come to the door to receive the presents. It takes 2 or 3 days before a reply can be got. Further, the presents would not be received in an irregular manner, as it is usual for a confidential clerk to receive them, and he would ask many questions. Yesterday I was so busy that I was almost deceived by you. Now you have a chance of speaking the truth, and you must tell me where you got this letter. When I was on this business, I did everything with the greatest speed, and therefore did not notice clearly who handed me the letter. Nonsense. You thief, will not speak the truth unless I beat it out of you, shouted Prefect Kaijio. You there? Beat this fellow severely. The attendants did not like to do this, but they knew that if they dealt only light blows the prefect would notice it, and only be more angry. So they took Daizong, and dealt heavy blows so that blood was soon flowing from the wounds. Daizong could not stand the pain any longer, so he confessed, "Certainly the letter is a false one." "Where did you get it?" asked the prefect. "When I was passing Liangshan Marsh I was seized by some bandits who took me to their stronghold, and were going to cut me open and take out my heart. They found your letter in my clothes, and so they released me. I knew that I could not return here and attempted to commit suicide. But they wrote the reply and told me that that would save my life. I was afraid that if I told you the truth you would punish me, so I deceived you in this way." "That may be so, but there is still something in your statement that means deception. It is evident that you are in complot with the bandits on Liangshan Marsh, and plan to take my letter there, and then make up this tale when you returned. Beat this fellow again." But Daizong was now determined not to admit that the bandits were his friends. When Prefect Kaijio saw that the beating had no effect, he said, "I will not ask him anything else. Put a kang on this man, and lock him up in the prison." This was done, and then Prefect Kai expressed his thanks to Huang Wenbing. "If it had not been for your valuable suggestion, I should have made a serious blunder. It is evident that this fellow is in close alliance with the bandits on Liangshan Marsh, and that he has planned all this deception himself. If you do not have him executed at once you will live to regret it," said Huang Wenbing. "I am going to cross-examine these two prisoners, and after getting their confessions will have them executed before I report the case to the emperor." "Your measures are excellent," said Huang Wenbing. "I am sure that the emperor will appreciate very much your capable administration. If you do this it will prevent the brigands from trying to rescue their friends from jail. You have been of great assistance to me, and I will report the case to the emperor, and strongly recommend you for promotion." After dining together Huang Wenbing returned to his own home. The next day when Prefect Kaijio entered the court he summoned the clerk, and told him to quickly write out the case, and add to it the statements made by both Song Jiang and Daizong. He was also to write out a wooden tablet stating the crimes of both men who were to be executed at the crossroads the following day. Now it was a general rule that rebels were to be executed without delay. When they were executed there would be no further trouble. Now the clerk, named Huang, was a personal friend of Daizong, but although he would have liked to save him yet he saw no means of doing so. But he replied, "Tomorrow will be the anniversary of the late emperor's death, and the following day will be the 15th of the 7th month, the festival of departed spirits, so that we cannot execute the prisoners on those days. 3 days from now is also debarred, as it is the anniversary of the emperor ascending the throne, but 5 days from now there will be no obstacle in the way." By saying this Huang hoped to postpone the fatal day. Prefect Kaijio agreed to this, and early in the morning of the 6th day he gave orders for the execution ground to be prepared for the execution. On that day about 500 soldiers were on parade in front of the prison about 10 a.m., with the executioner. The superintendent of the jail informed the prefect that everything was ready. Clerk Huang produced the boards with the names of the prisoners, and the prefect wrote opposite each name the character behead. The boards were attached to 2 reed mats to be suspended on the prisoners' backs. In the jail of Jiangzhou many jailers sympathized with the prisoners, but they could not save them. In the jail the prisoners' hands were bound, their hair was washed with glue so that it stood upright, and in it was stuck a goose quill, and a red silk flower. They were taken to the green-faced idol inside the prison, where they partook of their final meal and wine. They then kowtowed to the idol, and were conducted to the main entrance of the prison. Neither of the prisoners uttered even a word. Song Jiang occasionally stamped with his foot, while Daizong hung his head and sighed. There was a huge crowd of about 2,000 civilians pressing forward to see the sight. Upon reaching the execution ground at the crossroads the soldiers formed a ring. The prisoners were placed in the center, and told to sit down, Song Jiang facing the south, and Daizong facing the north. It was about 1:45 when the official in charge of the execution arrived. The crowd witnessed that on Song Jiang's back was a board with this announcement, "This criminal, Song Jiang, purposely wrote a seditious poem containing false and devilish sentiments. He was in complot with bandits of Liangshan Marsh in rebellious designs. According to law, he is to be executed. On Dai Zong's back was a board bearing this statement. This criminal, Dai Zong, secretly conveyed a letter for Song Jiang to Liangshan Marsh concerning rebellious designs, and according to law he is to be executed. Now, the prefect reined in his horse to await the report. He noticed that on the east side of the execution ground there was quite a crowd of snake charmers, who were trying to get to the execution ground, but they were being forced back by the armed guard. He also heard a noise on the west side, and saw there a crowd of medicine sellers armed with sticks who were also being repulsed by the soldiers. A soldier called out, "You fellows have no manners. Why push and shove like that? What do you say? We travel in all parts, so why should we be stopped here? We have seen men executed in many places. Even when the emperor at the capital orders an execution, he allows anybody to witness it. But you fellows at this insignificant place try to make it appear an important affair when you only kill a couple of men. If we go inside and look on, what damn difference does it make?" They still tried to force their way in, but the soldiers would not let them do so. In this tumult the superintendent of the execution shouted out, "Do not admit those fellows." While this row was still proceeding, the prefect, sitting on his horse, saw a crowd of men on the south side carrying loads on bamboo poles over their shoulders. They were also trying to get to the execution ground. The soldiers called out, "This is an execution. What do you fellows come here for? We are carrying these things to give to the prefect, so why don't you let us proceed?" "Even men in the prefect's yamen have to go some other way," replied the soldiers. The men put down their loads, held the poles in their hands, and stood looking on. The prefect now noticed on the north side a number of hawkers pushing carts, who also were insisting upon seeing the execution. The soldiers blocked the way, and the hawkers said, "We are in a hurry. Let us go through. This is an execution. You cannot go this way." The hawkers laughed, "That sounds easy. But we come from the capital, and do not know the byroads about here. We only know the main road." The soldiers still would not allow them to pass, and the hawkers put down their carts and stood on them so that they could see over the heads of the soldiers. By this time there was a general uproar on all sides, and just then a messenger pressed his way out through the crowd, and coming to the prefect announced, "It is now 1:45. The prefect ordered that the execution was to take place. Inside the ground were 2 executioners, who held swords in their hands ready for the final moment. The word "execute" had been called out when one of the hawkers standing on their carts took a small gong out of his clothes and struck it 4 times. Immediately the crowds on all the 4 sides pressed forward. Overlooking the execution ground was a tea house, and standing on the veranda was a tall man with a sallow complexion. When he heard the gong he bellowed out like a clap of thunder, and with an axe in each hand he leapt from the veranda onto the ground. He rushed at the executioners and killed them on the spot. He then rushed at the prefect, who was seated on his horse, and the numerous soldiers who were armed with spears could not impede him. Seeing this hopeless position, the prefect Kaiju took to flight with those soldiers. The sudden attack from all sides resulted in many soldiers being killed, and the remainder scattered about, leaving the prisoners behind. The hawkers soon released the 2 prisoners and put them in their carts. Some of the attacking crowd used bows and arrows, others spears, others bamboo poles, while others simply threw stones at the soldiers. This huge crowd were bandits from Liangshan Marsh led by 17 of the leaders under Chao Gai. But Chao Gai was surprised to see the man with the 2 axes, who was doing deadly work among the soldiers. He did not know the man, but Dai Zong informed him that the man was Li Kuei, Black Whirlwind, a very rough character who however was a supporter of Song Jiang. Chao Gai called out, "Are you not Black Whirlwind?" But the man did not reply as he was still busy brandishing his 2 axes. Chao Gai therefore told the 2 bandits who carried Dai Zong and Song Jiang on their backs respectively to follow the big black fellow. All the bandits now moved towards the crossroads where many soldiers and people had been killed, and the ground was covered with streams of blood. The bandits followed Li Kuei, and they fought their way out of the town. The rear was brought up by 4 of the leaders with men armed with bows who discharged arrows rapidly at the crowd of soldiers and civilians who dared not approach them. The bandits at last reached the bank of the river. Chao Gai saw that Li Kuei was covered with blood, and was still killing people who were in the way, so Chao Gai called out to him, "We are not fighting civilians, so do not kill any more people." But Li Kuei paid no attention to this, and continued killing people. Wherever he saw a man he killed him. When the bandits had gone about 2 li along the bank of the Yangtze River, they still could not find a way for further progress. Chao Gai was much annoyed at this unexpected check, but Li Kuei called out, "Never mind. I will carry my brother Song Jiang on my back to the temple." They then saw a large temple, but noticed that the doors were firmly closed. Li Kuei, however, took his axe, and soon cut the doors open. Chao Gai noticed that there were very old fir trees, which cast deep shadows on both sides of the door, and that above the door was a board with 4 characters in gilt, "By Long Spirit Temple." The men carried Song Jiang and Dai Zong into the temple, and put them down there. Song Jiang now opened his eyes, and seeing Chao Gai and the other men he cried, saying, "Elder brother, am I not dreaming?" "Sir, if you had only been at Liangshan Marsh this trouble would not have arisen," said Chao Gai. "But who is this sallow-complexioned man who has been killing so many people?" "He is Li Kuei, the Black Whirlwind. He tried to rescue me from prison, but I was afraid, and would not listen to his suggestions." "He is a very rare kind of man," said Chao Gai. "He is not afraid of either swords, axes, or arrows." "I think we had better find new clothes for our 2 brothers, interposed Huarong. Just then Li Kuei came out of the porch of the temple with 2 axes still in his hands. "Where have you been?" called out Song Jiang. "I want to find the caretaker of this temple, and kill him," replied Li Kuei. "I do not know what spirits or demons have caused them to fasten the doors of the temple in broad daylight, so I thought it better to sacrifice to the door god with his head, but so far I could not find him anywhere." "Come here," said Song Jiang, "and I will introduce you to my commanding officers." Li Kuei threw his axes down and kneeling before Chao Gai said, "Brother, please excuse my rough manners." He then saluted all the other men who were standing around, and among them was much pleased to recognize Zhu Gui, who was a compatriot of his own village. Here Huarong interrupted, "Elder brother, as you said that it would be better if we all followed this man, Li Kuei, who will guide us to a better spot, but now we are all in an awkward position, because we are surrounded by water, and have no means of escape should troops be dispatched from the town to capture us." "Do not get excited," said Li Kuei. "I will go with you into the town, and kill some more men, even including the prefect Kaijio, so as to enjoy ourselves." Dai Zong had now regained consciousness, and after listening to this said, "Younger brother, you must not do such a stupid thing. There are about 7,000 cavalry in the town, and against them you would stand no chance." Ruan the 7th said, "On the other side of the river there are many boats. I and my 2 brothers will swim across, and get the boats to come here so that you can all embark." Chao Gai thought this a good plan, and the 3 brothers Ruan stripped off their clothes, armed themselves with a dagger each, and plunged into the water. They had not swam more than a third of a li, when the men on shore saw 3 boats coming down the river. The men on the boats were sculling energetically, and a whistle was being blown. There were about 10 men on each boat who were well armed, and this filled the brigands with great anxiety. Song Jiang, who was inside the temple, heard the noise, and said, "In my life there is nothing but trouble." He got up and went outside to see what was happening. He saw a big man standing on one boat armed with a 5-pronged spear. On his head he wore a red turban, and was dressed in white silk. He was blowing the whistle. Song Jiang at once recognized him as Zhang Shun and signaled to him with his hand, shouting out, "Younger brother, save me." Zhang Shun at once recognized Song Jiang, and called out that he was coming. The boats almost flew to the bank of the river. The brothers Ruan, who were swimming, saw the 3 boats, and at once turned back to the bank they had left. Song Jiang knew the men on the boats. On the first boat was Zhang Shun with about 10 followers. The second boat carried Zhang Heng, Mu Hong, Mu Chun, and Shui Yong with about 15 other men. On the third boat were Li Jun, Li Li, Tong Wei, and Tong Meng, and about 10 other men. They were all armed and disembarked. When Zhang Shun met Song Jiang, he was much pleased and wept, saying, "From the time of your imprisonment I have felt uneasy, but could see no way of setting you free. Then I heard of the arrest of Dai Zong, and in addition, I did not meet Li Kuei, so I had to find my elder brother Zhang Heng, and we both went to old Mu's farmhouse, and summoned many of our friends to assemble at that place. Today we intended to go to Jiangzhou to rescue you from the prison, but did not think that other men would precede us with that object. We dare not venture to make acquaintance of such great heroes as these. Are they not all chivalrous men under Chao Gai from Liangshan Marsh?" Song Jiang pointed with his finger and said, "This is my elder brother, Chao Gai. Please come inside the temple, and I will introduce all of you to each other." They then all went into the temple, altogether 29 leaders, and there occurred what we have called the meeting at the Bailong Temple. They had just finished their general introduction to each other, when one of the bandits rushed into the temple in an agitated manner and said, "In the town there is great noise of gongs and drums assembling the troops, and many soldiers are already passing the gates to arrest us. There are myriads of flags enough to conceal the sun, and swords as numerous as a field of hemp. Cavalry was in front and officers with so many big swords and big axes in the rear. They are now rushing upon this temple." Li Kuei upon hearing this shouted, "Kill them," and seizing his 2 axes he rushed out of the temple. Chao Gai called out, "If you don't do it at once, it can never be done. All you gentlemen must now assist me in defeating these soldiers, before we go back to Liangshan Marsh." His followers all cried out with one voice, "We will obey your orders." Waves were stained with blood so rare. Dragons came forth from their lair. During storm that raged then, tigers leapt from mountain den. Footnote 75. The Hanlin Academy was the highest academic and administrative institution. The senior echelons of the imperial civil service were drawn from members of the academy.